Hello, ladies, babies, boys, and girls. We've just finished, we're just finishing KVK1 on our free-to-play account. So what better time than to use the experience I've just gleaned and concoct a tier list for the KVK1 commanders. I should prefix this by saying that this isn't just my tier list. I actually went and asked a load of people in game who've just done KVK1 with me, whose opinions I trust, how they'd rank the commanders, what their thoughts would be. And a lot of them disagreed with my particular stance on some of them. So we go with mostly my opinion, but I've been swayed, let's say, by people. So this is, let's say there's about 20 people whose opinions have formed the basis for this. Not just me. So if you disagree, it's the other guys. If you agree, that's actually my decision, something like that. So without further ado, let's crack on. And first thing we do is get the Don't Even Go There Girlfriend rating. That's just for gathering commanders, peacekeepers, event commanders who don't seem to be in the game anymore, or you can't get them. So let's just quickly put them all in. Got Ishida. Kira is not actually a bad commander, but you're never going to get the required number of heads for her because it's only from Ceroli, and ain't no one getting those Ceroli heads this early on. Matilda, beautiful Matilda. Get in the bin. Who else do we have? Siondok and Queen Tamar. Okay, or whatever her name is. Right, there we go. So they're the easy, don't even go there, girlfriends. For the rest of them, we've got S+, which is the best commander in this in KVK1. No one will argue with that, I'm pretty certain. S, creme de la creme. A, very, very good. B, pretty good. C, yeah, usable. D, just above, don't even go there. Kind of the lower tier of usable commanders. So we'll go a bit quickly through many of them, as otherwise we should have a discussion about crap for no reason. Usually this guy. I'm going to put him as D. You never see him. There's better infantry commanders, people like Sun Tzu and Bjorn, much more from the free-to-play side of things, and of course he's nowhere near Martel and Richard. We'll put him as a solid D. Baibars. I think I'm hovering between C and B for Baibars. I'll probably put him as C. He's actually a really good secondary to Belisarius. If you're the kind of person who enjoys killing farmers, then firstly, unsubscribe from the channel and leave this video because I detest you. But once you've done that, come back, finish the video off, and you'll learn that he's got a really good damage output. He's not as good as Chow Chow in that sense, although he's not far behind. But if you're doing the farm killing march, Belisarius Baibars is a very good farm killing duo. And I should say at this point, Belisarius would obviously be the primary, Baibars would be the secondary in this. We're not thinking of this as the secondary or primary, we're just thinking commander in a vacuum. So what their usage is. For instance, we've got YSG here. YSG will always be a secondary. Richard will always be a primary. So we're not doing separate tier lists for that. And we're not really demarcating between free-to-play and pay-to-win as well. We're just seeing, well, we're kind of seeing it from a pay-to-win point. We'll give free-to-play strong commanders a bit of a mention insofar as we'll talk about their value for free-to-play. But this is quite honestly from a pay-to-win standpoint. So Baibars, I'd say high C, low B. Decent cavalry commander. Now, Bjorn Ironside, I'm going to pop him in the B. And I thought he'd be a little higher, to be honest. In my pre-KVK video of what I thought the best commander pairings would be, I thought Bjorn's son would be still the best free-to-play march. And you know what? They're still good. But most people, even at the free-to-play level, have either a Richard or a Martel with decent skills. Whether or not that's a good idea, we'll leave that for another video. But Bjorn is a good commander. Bjorn is not as good as Sun Tzu overall. I think he's definitely better than usually. He's still a good primary for Sun Tzu, but I think there are better options now with Pyrrhus being added. I mean, you could even consider Pericles. Spoiler, we won't. But I think B, he's better than Baibars, I'd say, but he's certainly lower than where I'll put the higher infantry guys. That's a fine. His abilities are fine. He's just a fine. He's fine plus, which is where B pretty much lasts, so we'll pop him there. Now, Chow Chow is the first time I disagree with my group of people giving opinions. Because I would put Chow Chow here. I really don't like him. Yeah, he's really quick. And he's really, he's got good activated ability. I think it's a 1400 damage factor. We can go and quickly check, actually. No, that's not the option. So Chow Chow's activated ability is... Yeah, it's 1400 direct damage factor, and does a good little bonus as well. However, I just feel he's so, aside from that, he hasn't really got much going for him, to be honest. That's it. Like, he gets in, he hits hard, then he goes. However, I've never liked Cavalry, let's be honest. And, okay, well, let's go a step back. I'd probably put him here. Okay, he's better than Bypass, just. But he is the best secondary to MiniMoto at this stage of the game. And when MiniMoto is dominating a lot of things here, you kind of need a good secondary. Like, MiniMoto can go with YSG, but YSG is better off with a tankier primary commander. So sadly, I'm going to defer to the voices telling me that Chow Chow's better than I rate him. He probably is, let's be honest. And put him in the A category. He is the best the best gold key cavalry commander, I believe. So I suppose he has got that going for him. I don't like him too much, but I understand that if you're running a good MiniMoto, a max MiniMoto, a 5-5-1-1, having a Chow Chow secondary is kind of something you need to do, even if it's just 5-1-1-1. Just MiniMoto's purpose, just get in, smash, leave. And Chow Chow really does help with that. Okay, so we'll put Chow Chow at the A tier. El Cid is a commander I'd like to put here because I hate him. I don't know why I hate him. I just have an unnatural detestation for him. I don't know if that's a word. However, I will confess he's a little better than that. I don't think he's too much better than that. I think with El Cid, it depends a lot on whether he's maxed or not. If he's maxed, yeah, he's really good in KVK1. However, then you're maxing a gold key commander who really falls off in the late game. Because unlike a lot of these commanders, El Cid basically has no use in the end game. So you've wasted so many heads. If you do max him for some bizarre reason, yeah, he's great. If he's anything other than maxed and he doesn't get his expertise skill, I think he's BC. He's probably B-. He's probably just below Bjorn. In fact, we can do this. We'll view the left as the A+, the B+. So I'd say El Cid's very much on the B- scale of things. There aren't many good archers in KVK1, as we all know. There aren't many good archers in KVK2, as we all know. Good job I chose archers as my troop type anyway. El Cid's a medium one. He's very good when expertised early on and very useless later on. Anything other than expertise, he's just not that good. No damage dealing activated ability, which is a huge deal early game. I'd say B-, C+. Frederick's just pretty trash early on. I'm just going to put him in a D. Like a leadership commander with... I mean, let's go and quickly look through his skills now I think about it. Frederick, window capture gone. We've got... Sure. The heal's kind of useless, so you're never going to get more than that. 2% damage when attacking a city is basically useless. Unit capacity is actually very good, but you're not going to get Frederick to that level at all. I just don't think he's got any use early on. Like, there's been talk that he's decent with Gorga, is it Luce, or one of the newer commanders later on in the game when you get his relic and all the bonuses there. But for the purpose of KVK1, I would just put Frederick right at the bottom. He might even be in the don't go there girlfriend level. He's terrible. Hannibal Barker, I'm actually going to put in don't even go there girlfriend. He is diabolically bad. And the reason he's so... I'm not even going to put him in D and make a stance of putting him in even below that is because firstly you need to get to VIP 14 to max him. I presume a lot of people, particularly those new to the game, like you see MiniMoto for up to VIP 10 or VIP 9. MiniMoto's obviously great. So you'd imagine that the commander you get for higher VIP levels, you can expertise with that, would also be great. He is terrible. I love seeing a Hannibal Barcher on the battlefield. You basically only see it when the tier 5 player's using 5 marchers. And when they're doing it, the plan is just swarm Barcher because he just dies quickly. Yeah, he does a bit of damage, but he is just trash. My one recommendation would be never spend a penny on Hannibal Barcher. He is just not worth it. Unless you want to unlock the 10 gold heads for buying him. In which case, yeah, fair enough. But other than that, Barcher should not even be on the bench. He should be behind the bench, propping up the bench. He should be underneath the bench, like the bench should be on top of him. Don't go there, girlfriend. Herman, people seem to like Herman more than I do. The silence is valuable. I think he's below El Cid in usability, certainly. I'm not a big fan, but I can't deny the silence is valuable. Again, let's prefix this by saying archers just aren't that good in KVK1. Even someone as dreamerish as me who thought we'd go archers and we'd crush all the infantry players, we got good trades against them, but archers just are bad in KVK1. There's no getting around it, unfortunately. And Herman's not a particularly good exponent of the archer class. C. Excuse me, just had a coughing fit, so I had to pause the video. We put the two together. I put the two together. Anyway, onwards. Next, after Herman, we've got big old Martel. Now, Martel is clearly an excellent commander in KVK1. In fact, we're just going to deal with Richard at the same time because they're very, very similar. They're both excellent in KVK1, complete tanks. They both have usability in late game. I'd say Martel's probably got more battle usability. You see him with a garrison, you see him with double relics, which come in KVK3, being a really hard to kill infantry commander. Richard's usability later in the game is more for farming barbarians to his excellent heal. And they're very difficult to distinguish between. The 20 or so people I surveyed, the consensus was just that Martel was better. I personally think Richard's a little better. I know that your hospital bills are very big with Richard, but he lasts so long on the battlefield. I love the heal. Okay, I don't like it afterwards. You have to heal everything, but both these guys are such great houses for a YSG to perch behind and sort of fire over. You see most of the better players in KVK1 either having a Martel or a Richard March. The whalier players will tend to have both. And it's difficult to distinguish between them. I'm surprised when I do this list, they're both so much higher than Bjorn, because I thought Bjorn was comparable because he's so much easier to level up, but most people have enough. Most people seem to use gold heads on either Richard or Martel. Whether or not that's a good idea, I don't think it particularly is, but they're also there for the MGE, so if you're a big player in the kingdom, you'll get a good Martel easily. If you're a big whale, you'll be able to spin a lot for Richard, so you can get them to a decent level of skill. And they do sort of eclipse anything below legendary tier. So I'd say they're both quite clearly in the S tier. I would just put Martel ahead of Richard on the basis of what everyone else has been saying to me. But you can't go wrong with either of them. They do fall off late game, as we said, but they still have applications. So it's not like putting heads into El Cid, or Chow Chow, where they're basically unusable for Season of Conquest or later on. Both excellent commanders in KVK1. Obviously, we all know who's going to win the S tier. There's no mystery to that. It's Thutmose. It's not Thutmose, sadly. But Richard and Martel, they're very, very close to that. Then we come to Ethel. So Ethel is an interesting one because she's definitely the best free-to-play commander in the game insofar as you will max her easily as the game goes on. You will not max it in KVK1 though, and a lot of the benefit of Ethel is her ability to do extra damage to slowed troops. It's a really nice little stack-up thing. She's still really good though. And another thing I should mention at this point is KVK1 is kind of typified by, unless you're a massive whale, you've probably got enough materials, equipment, commander points, commander level, skill books to put the commander level up for one good march. Now, Ethel is excellent when you're running 5 marches, or 7 even. You just run a Trajan and an Ethel. It's brilliant. Or having someone doing that. When you're running 1 march, you probably don't have space for an Ethel in that sense. So that does damage her in KVK1. So I'm going to say her KVK1 ranking is worse than her overall ranking in the game. I'd probably give her an A in the game for what she represents. For this one, I'd say she's B. She's B+. She's definitely above these lads. Well, probably close with Bjorn. Let's see if I can move her. Yeah. But the fact that, again, unless you're 5 marching or 4 marching, in which case tier lists don't really matter. You put so much money in the game and just smack it. I would say she's difficult to get into one of your primary marches at this stage. She works well with Sun Tzu, incidentally, but there are better commanders to use with Sun Tzu. And as I said, the Trajan, she works so well with late game, obviously not here now. I hate her as a primary. I absolutely hate her. In fact, I've got an obsession with when I see Ethel on the battlefield, I just hair towards her. Doesn't matter if I'm going across enemy territory, no man's land. I see Ethel, I kill Ethel. But she's really as good as a secondary commander. She maintains that throughout the game. I put her in B tier. Strong B tier. Joan of Arc's quite similar to Ethel. She's really good insofar as she gives excellent buffs, and you always want one in a murder ball fight. Again, if you're only able to do 1 march or 2 marches, you're probably not going to be able to run Joan of Arc. I'm a little more down on her than I used to be. I think there's better support commanders out now. She still serves a unique role. I'm still going to put her in the B category because you don't see her very often. Of course, she's always a secondary, and it's always for the activated ability of the buffs and the buffs to everyone, to all troop types. But it's difficult to run her. You always want to see a Joan of Arc on the battlefield. You just don't want you to have the Joan of Arc because your trades won't be as good. Everyone around you will be better. You know how people are. I'll put her in the B-. I'd say in terms of how often you see her, probably C-. But the actual effect she has on the battlefield, and the fact she's really good in Canyon, strong B- for Jeanne d'Arc there. Julius Caesar, the commander I maxed first in Rise of Kingdoms. Everyone told me, you're an idiot, don't max Julius Caesar. This was 3-4 years ago before I quit. I said, no, you're wrong. He's excellent. Look, he's the hero of Rome. Yeah, he's not good. He's not very good at all. Let's go C- for Julius Caesar. You don't see him very often, and when you do see him, it's probably too much. In fact, the more I see this, the more I think hugely... No, I try Julius Caesar over hugely. You get the only saving grace for Julius Caesar is there is a couple of MGEs where you get him as the prize. So proper whales probably are going to have a pretty close to max Caesar. You're not doing like city attacking. I don't really put into KVK1 as a big factor. The only people who get city attacked are those who make mistakes and are offline. Although I guess that's true for most of the game. Caesar's a decent legendary, nothing more than that. I certainly wouldn't put him anywhere near comparable to the ones we've mentioned before. I think C- is a fair approximation of his positioning. Now, Kusunogi, he could be the best archer commander bar YSG at this stage of the game. I think I'm going to put him here. I think I'm going to put him above El Cid. I really hate El Cid. It's probably not fair on El Cid. Let's assume if they're both max, El Cid's much, much better. But if they're both in a similar position, Kusunogi's really good. There's a big argument that he's better than dear old Thutmose. I might even subscribe to that, as sad as that is to admit. Okay, he doesn't stack with skill damage as well. But Kusunogi is a very strong archer epic for KVK1. I kind of view him as the Sun Tzu of archers, or the Belisarius of archers, who's the guy you'd see for cavalry from the epic tier list. Yeah, he's a really good primary. He gets good stats. He's got a decent activated ability. His expertise just makes all your archers better. I think he's a solid B-level commander. I think, yeah, look at this list. He's definitely better than Herman. I think Baibar's a little unlucky to be here. He's definitely at the top of C, but yeah, we'll put Kusunogi here. Mehmed, I'm going to put in the C category, strong in the C category. Mehmed's a really interesting one. Again, you'll only see him when whale players are 5 marching, usually, or people who don't really know what they're doing. Mehmed is interesting insofar as later in the game, he's actually really good. Once you get a double relic for Mehmed, he gives a troop health, I think it's 30 or 40% bonus, I can't remember. He gives a lot of health to all your troops. So he's a really good secondary later on for Scipio Prime, for instance, but early on when you don't get that, and you've only got the activated ability and a few other things, he's just not that useful. Again, I will always go for him if I see him, because I'm assuming he's a 4th or a 5th march, and the fact that I'm doing that means he's probably so firmly in the C category. Again, unlike someone like Richard, who starts at S and then goes down as the game goes on, Mehmed starts at C, definitely goes up as the game goes on. But for the interests of KVK1, Mehmed's squarely in the C category. MiniMoto. Well, let's be honest, he's definitely an S tier. 100% tier, as much as I'd like to admit otherwise. But is he better than Martel and Richard? That's a close one. I'd be interested to know what you guys think, where you'd rank these guys in this tier individually. I mean, we could even... The fact... So MiniMoto's got a lot going for him. Number one, you don't have to spend gold heads on him. You have to spend hard-earned cash on maximising him, which is either good or bad depending on your cash flow situation. Secondly, he's by far and away the best commander from the cavalry branch in this KVK. He's also the best commander for rallying by a mile this KVK. So he's kind of necessary if you're a bigger player. You need a MiniMoto. You need him probably maxed if you've got the cash to spare for it. Because if you're going to be rally leading, you're going to need to rally lead with MiniMoto. You're going to rally lead with MiniMoto, and they're going to defend with Martel YSG. That's just how it is in KVK1. You don't get many options. I thought dear old Pyrrhus would change things. Not really. So the very fact that he's so necessary puts him up there. Also, his damage output is just sensational. I think it's 1600 or 1700 from the active ability. I mean, in the interests of trying to do a well-researched video, let's go and have a quick look. Yeah, so it's 1400 with this, goes up to... yeah, so it's 1400 with the extra damage factor, which is a 75%. So he's basically the highest damage output commander at this stage of the game by a long distance. Cavalry doesn't really... Let me just put this back on. Doesn't really have any alternatives. Like, you could run Belisarius and Baibars, but they're very firmly in the farm killing positioning. MiniMoto, the best cavalry combat commander, I think because of how necessary... no, I don't know. I think I'm going to put him here. I'm going to put him after Richard. I prefer Richard personally. I would say MiniMoto has a lot going for him later on. His double relic version is very good. He's very good secondary to Nevsky, admittedly as a single target guy. For quite a long time, you'll see him as a secondary in KVK4 onwards, because his double relic's really good. So he doesn't lose too much as the game goes on. Of course, eventually he's forced out by the better... that there are 4 better cavalry commanders in the game, but if you've bought MiniMoto early on, you'll get use out of him for a good 12-18 months at least. Longer if you're not focusing on cavalry. So I would say he's up there. He's definitely an S tier. He probably bisects these two. I think Martel being better than Richard's something everyone subscribes to apart from me. So I'll put him between those two. MiniMoto, excellent. Commander, I don't have him because I'm free to play. Dear old Mulan. She's a bit like Joan of Arc. She's got a good passive ability. She's kind of like a souped up version of Joan, I think, but you're never going to see her at this stage. People haven't put the heads in her. I think I'm just going to put her in D. Okay, if she's maxed out, she is really good. It's one of these ones you don't want to run, but you want to see on the battlefield on your side. On my Whalish account, I like killing her. I had her quite high early on. I used her quite a bit because I was using her for killing barbs. I seem to get a load of heads for her, so I put her in. And she's really good as a secondary when you've got 3 or 4 marches. When you're just single or 2 marching, she's nowhere near it. You need to put a load of heads in her to get her any use. If you're putting heads in KVK1 commanders, she should be nowhere near the top of the list. So I think D-ish, she's better than Frederick. And she's not a bad commander at all, but at this stage of the game, she's not that useful. Osman, I think, a little harsh, but I'm going to put him here. He's got really good single target damage. I think he's got the highest single target damage for any epic commander, but he hasn't got anything else going for him, let's be honest. I don't even know what he is. I never see Osman on the battlefield. I guess you never see Osman on the battlefield. Let's just put him in D and be done with it. Now, Pelagius is one I've deferred to other people on as well. I'm going to put him here, I think, just before Caesar. I don't think he's that good. I'm quite happy to see a Pelagius on the battlefield. Yeah, he's relatively tanky. He's probably the tankiest cavalry commander early on. But I see him as just a poor man's alternative to MiniMoto. So you're going for farm killing with Belisarius and Baibars. In fact, we don't... Where is Belisarius? What is this list? Why do we not have Belisarius? Right, I'm going to click my fingers, and we're going to come back with a Belisarius. I'm despairing at this. Well, Belisarius is here now. Let's be honest, it's probably a better tier list without Belisarius. No one likes Belisarius. We all hate him. We all know what he's doing. Anyway, where was I? Pelagius, I kind of think the best way of using cavalry, if you're not going for MiniMoto and using it for nuke damage, is just farm killing. I hate farm killing, so I don't do it, but loads of people do. Loads of people enjoy it. Fair play to them. If you're farm killing, you want Belisarius Baibars as free to play. And Pelagius, yeah, like I say, he's kind of a poor-ish combat guy from the cavalry field. I think lower C. I'd put him even lower, but other people do tend to like him a little more. I think other people have suggested he should be a little higher than this. But it's my list. I'll put in C-. Now, Belisarius. Now we've remembered him. I hate Belisarius. Does anyone like Belisarius? Let's put him here. I don't want to put him here. I really dislike Belisarius. No, he's going after Bjorn. I do admit the KVK1 is the KVK Belisarius. The amount you see running around, killing farmers. And again, some people like doing that. Some people really enjoy getting the farmer kills. I think it's laborious, boring, and kind of unrewarding, so I don't bother. It's also, yeah, as I said, time consuming. I spend enough time mining gems. I don't want to kill farmers. But Belisarius is widely used in KVK1. He's probably the commander probably one of the commanders you see the most often. I kind of have to put him in the B tier. He's very, very, very quick and very, very, very weak. He dies so easily, but that's not his job. His job is to get there, kill farmers, run away before you can catch him, and then send an emoji saying bye. That's kind of Belisarius' role, and he does that well, so I guess I will begrudgingly put him in the B category. Ragnar. Now, the big question with Ragnar is he worse or better than Frederick? I'd say they're about as bad as each other. Ragnar's terrible. Don't use Ragnar. He's of no use whatsoever. Just don't do it. Don't Ragnar. Scipio... Scipio Africanus, is he? Non-Scipio Prime. Again, he's a bit like Osman. He's not terrible. He doesn't look terrible. You look at him, you think, oh, that's all right. You don't see him, though. When you do see him, you kind of target him. So there's no way I can put him any higher than a D. He's definitely below... Well, he's definitely below Mulan. I think Mulan's D is a bit harsh. It's more to make a point that Mulan's decent late on, but kind of useless at this stage. So let's put Scipio in D. You never see him. For good reason as well. He's meh. We come to the ghost of the free-to-play world. Mr. Sun Tzu. He's definitely going above Cao Cao. I'm willing to admit he's not as good as the big two infantry commanders. Well, maybe the big three now. Yeah, his tankiness is kind of everything at this stage of the game. The best players will tend to have a Martel and a Richard with a, what's his name, a YSG behind them to last as long as they can on battlefield, do as much damage as they can. Sun Tzu YSG is a very commonly seen commander pairing, and they've got good AoE damage. He just doesn't have the tankiness of Richard or Martel. Yes, he deals more damage and he's much easier to level up. In fact, I've recommended it to a lot of people. I've done a video recommending that you choose China as your starting civ, because then you get a quite easy Sun Tzu to level up. He's very, very good. He's just not S tier anymore. He's probably still the best free-to-play commander. I'd say Joan's the only one who rivals him, but that's for a very different reason. She's good in Canyon. She's very good at support. If you're using, for a primary march, you can put him behind Bjorn or you can put him in front of YSG. He's very, very strong still. Little bit below the S tier guys, but Sun Tzu's still very much the A tier of KVK1. This is the part where we scroll up. I think we all agree with this, right? I would be astounded if anyone comments disagreeing with YSG being the best commander early game. He's only just been replaced as one of the best commanders for late game. Like, now Zhuge Liang's out. Zhuge Liang is better than YSG, but YSG double relic. I mean, I use him in KVK4. He's still really good. He's not part of my first march anymore. He's part of my second march. He's excellent at what he does. In KVK1, look at this. So we've got these S tier and A tier commanders. With the exception of Cao Cao, all of these guys can sit in front of a YSG and think, yep, this is a great march. MiniMoto YSG will do massive damage. Richard Martel YSG will have massive stayability, just hang around the battlefield doing smashes with YSG. Sun Tzu's kind of a bit between the two of them. You compare him with archers, that's what I've done. You don't have to. Like, you'd never put Richard at the head of a cavalry unit, Minamoto infantry, Martel archers. You can put YSG absolutely anywhere. He's got one skill that pertains to archers. The rest is all about skill damage and his wonderful activated ability. It starts off as the arc and then it goes into the circle late game. I think a big question in KVK1 is, do you want to max YSG? If so, go for him. If not, don't bother, because his max is so useful later in the game, but you have to kind of commit to it. And there's a lot of heads to commit. I did commit to it on this account, and I'm glad I did. I think it's difficult for a big player to go through KVK without YSG, because he's just by far and away the best commander. He's also really good for free-to-play. You can dump all your gold heads in him for 1 KVK. Just skip out the KVK2 commanders. He's still usable later in the game. He's the best commander KVK1. Easy S+. Imhotep. Now, Imhotep, before I really played with Imhotep early on, I kind of thought Imhotep would be here or here. Imhotep is a bit like Joan. Imhotep's got a great debuff ability, but you can't single march Imhotep. He's just not strong enough. You probably can't 2 marches. if you're 4 or 5 marching, having an Imhotep debuffing as part of your squad is pretty good. Not many people are doing that. I think Imhotep has to go... Yeah, I think he has to go in the D tier as much as I dislike it. He's really, really, really good in Canyon, but he's kind of useless on the battlefield early game. Apart from as a secondary he is useful, but then you're kind of benefiting those around you instead of yourself directly, which we have to establish with Joan, as we established in Mulan, not something A, many people want to do in KVK1, and B, kind of have the marches to support that, or the equipment. When I say march, I don't just mean the commanders, I mean you've got equipment to support that. Later on, you've got the armaments to support it, you've got the troop numbers to support it. At this stage of the game, the vast majority of people don't have that, so sadly, Imhotep is going to live in the D tier. Be still my beating heart. And now we come to Thutmose, who is obviously... okay, he's not there. I thought Thutmose was very good, because I used him as my primary to YSG in this KVK. I thought he was very good. I would personally put him here. I think he's the best archer commander, I think, apart from YSG. Obviously, he's much better than El Cid. However, other people seem to disagree with me on this. I'd be curious to know what everyone else thinks. My Thutmose is only 5-2-1-1. I put like 5 gold heads in him. He's been good. He's not been great. I wonder if I'd have been better off using Kusunogi. I'd love to have seen those two like alternate timelines running parallel. That would have been a waste of an alternate timeline wish, though. I'm probably going to put him in B tier, as much as I'd like to put him in A. I just think the people have spoken. Let's put him here. I'm putting him above Bjorn because it's my list. I'll do what I want. I think that's kind of where he sits. Pericles, nah, he's useless. You don't see him on the battlefield. Okay, he's got some niche garrisoning skills. He's got some decent... he's actually quite good with Scipio Prime in Canyon later in the game, but he's not really... You don't see him early on. He's a bit like these guys. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. You just don't see them. When you do see them, they don't tend to trade that well. Let's put Pericles down in the D tier. And finally, Pyrrhus. It's fitting that Pyrrhus is right at the end, because Pyrrhus is the commander I think I was wrong about the most. I thought Pyrrhus would be here. I really did. Like, looking at Pyrrhus, let's have a quick look at him. Where are we? He just looks like well, firstly, he looks invisible. Here we go. He looks like he's got 1,400 direct damage for infantry. I thought that was going to be massive, because the highest other infantry direct damage, I don't know, maybe it's Sun Tzu? Okay, it's probably not Sun Tzu. Let's see which one it actually is. Infantry. Bjorn doesn't do that, right? Oh, he does 500. Martel's got the shield. Usually no one cares about it. Usually got 750. So he's basically double the direct damage of anyone else up to this stage. He looks like he should be so good. Even this, like, outside of enemy, like 10% bonus, 15% march speed look fantastic. More attack. I don't know what it is. He just didn't... Every time I saw him on the battlefield, maybe it's because he's... Maybe because Martel and Richard are so tanky, and tankiness is really quite overpowered in Rise of Kingdoms at this stage of the game, especially early on. But I just didn't see Pyrrhus being that useful. Like, he's not bad at all. He's still very good, in fact. I would say... I put him below Sun Tzu, I think. If we look at everything in terms of... Well, I mean, one of the big factors Sun Tzu's so high is because it's easy to... expertise in epic, get it to level 60, and then you've got strong epic. I'd say a 5555 Pyrrhus is of course better than a max Sun Tzu. There's no question about it. But we consider the difficulty of getting him there, whether you want to spend gold heads, which you'd have to on a KVK1 commander, the fact he's not in any Mightiest Governor events. I think Pyrrhus, I think he's in the A category. He's towards the middle of it. He's certainly a long way behind Richard Martel. Yes, he does more damage. He's just a bit squishy, which is kind of a word in Rise of Kingdom, which means he dies fairly easily. He hasn't got much defense going for him. I base this a lot, not just on, of course, loads of people have contributed to this, but in my opinion, it's which commanders I don't like seeing on the battlefield. When I see a Martel, MiniMoto, or Richard, I think, oh, for God's sake. When I see a Pyrrhus or a Sun Tzu, I'm like, yeah, I'll go towards them, no problem. Obviously, you never see YSG on the battlefield because he's always a secondary. He's just excellent in his own right. So this is how I would rank anyone. I've no doubt left someone out because the list I used probably, it was missing 5 commanders for sure. I'm sure there'll be more it's missing, but if there is, let me know. I don't think there's anyone we've missed who's a real big boy. What do you think? What do you think of my list? I think, like I said, this is a list that I've concocted with a few other people. So if you disagree with any element, you disagree with them. If you agree with it, that was the bit I did. I think this is quite a representative list. I mean, there's a few in here I'm seeing I think are a bit harsh or a bit lucky to be where they were. I think I've explained my reasoning for it. Let me know what you think. Is this how you view the KVK1 commanders? And if you're going into your first KVK1, I hope this can be helpful for you. It's very different from the tier list I did before KVK1. So it shows how experience can change things quite markedly at a drop of a hat. And if you like the video, please do think about subscribing, dropping a like, helps a lot. I'm sure once we go into KVK2, I'll do a pre-ranking and a post-ranking again. Until then, thanks for watching.